You're watching Nichols Golf. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with your friends who also want to play better golf.
Do you want to shoot lower golf scores? Well, I've got a question that you need to ask yourself and give an honest answer if you really want to shoot the best scores you possibly can with the abilities you have now. And that is, do you know exactly where to aim when you're on the course? Believe it or not, a lot of amateurs don't know exactly where to aim because they're not paying attention to exactly where they hit the ball on a regular basis. They think they're hitting the ball somewhere, or they think they can hit the ball somewhere, but they don't realize exactly where they are hitting the ball. So we're going to do a little experiment in this video that's going to help me determine exactly where I should be aiming when I'm out on the course. And then you can use this theory to figure out exactly where you need to aim. So we're using this FlightScope launch monitor here, and I'm gonna hit a series of 10 shots with my 5-iron, and we're gonna see on this launch monitor exactly where those shots end up. Okay, so here on the readout from the FlightScope launch monitor, you can see a dispersion chart from these 5-irons that I just hit. Now this line here where you see the print, that's the aim line. That's where I was trying to hit the ball. But you see 3 of these balls ended up just slightly to the left, within 10 yards to the left of my target. And the other 7 ended up going to the right. I pushed 7 of the 10. So 70% of the time I was pushing the shot. And this gives me an exact number. For the most part, I was about 10 to 12 yards to the right of where I was hoping to hit the ball. So now I can take that data and go out to the golf course and know that when I've got a 5-iron or probably any other long iron in my hand, I should be setting up to expect a push of about 10 to 12 yards. And so now this also gives me my typical distance. My median distance was about 175 yards. So yeah, this read a couple of them to go well past 180, which is not normal for my 5. I typically expected it to go about 180, but today, not hitting it very far. This monitor caught it going about 170 to 175 on average. So that's what I should expect when I go out to the course, that I'm going to be able to hit this club about 175, and it's going to go about 10 to 15 yards to the right of where I am set up to hit it. So now we'll take this dispersion chart and we'll lay it over the top of greens that I might hit to. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so I've taken that shot disbursement chart and I've plotted it on this transparency so we could see what we should do with the knowledge we just gained. So on here, I've represented where I would be aiming and the typical distance I would hit my 5-iron with this bullseye right here. So you can see that 7 out of the 10 shots that I just hit would be, and these lines represent 10 and 20 yards in each direction. So 7 of the 10 shots I hit were somewhere between 10, maybe 13 yards to the right of where I was aiming. And then I had the 3 that ended up drawing and going over to the left. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you've probably heard me say that I prefer to hit a nice little draw, ending up somewhere around 5 yards to the left of where my feet are set up. That's my preferred shot, and over the last several years, that's been just kind of the typical shot for me. And I'm talking to, not pros who can create any shot shape they want in any given scenario. I'm talking to the everyday golfers who hopefully hit the ball solid the majority of the time and it goes where it goes. That's who I'm talking to in this video. So if you're like that, then with this practice session telling me that my trend, 70% of the time I'm doing this 10 to 13 yard push, rather than try to fix my swing during a round, if this was like a pre-round practice session, I'm just gonna live in that world, go with what's happening, and I'm gonna now use this knowledge to decide where I'm gonna set up for every shot in that round. So here's a random fairway, a typical scenario that I drew here where this is maybe a par 4 or 5 where there's a fairway bunker on the right side. And if I were to set up my feet to aim right down the middle of that fairway, I'm now flirting with this bunker on 70% of my shots. If I did hit the draw that I typically hit, yeah, I'm on the left side of the fairway here, but once again, we gotta live in the world that you're playing in right now. So what I would do then, move my aim point over to the inside the left edge of this fairway, and now I could get 70, possibly 80% of my shots to end up in that fairway. Or if I don't want to flirt with that bunker at all, I go down a club, I aim just inside the left head or towards the left half of the fairway. I'm now increasing my chances of hitting that fairway by quite a bit. So now here's a random green that I've drawn. Typical scenario, this green might be somewhere around 75 feet wide and guarded on the right side by a bunker. And suppose you've got a shot into this green that's wide open. If I were to aim right for the middle of this green, I'm flirting with this bunker quite a bit. And then if I hit my draw, then I'm ending up on the green. But once again, living in the world where I am now, my trend would tell me I'm going to be flirting with that bunker if I aim at the middle of the green. And look what happens if I aim at the flag. Then if I hit my draw, I'm in great shape, but I could be in or around behind this bunker. And of course, there's those two anomalies that ended up going quite a bit farther than normal. Then I'm ending up behind the green, which typically you don't want to end up behind a green. So if I change my aim point to where I'm going at the left edge of this green, maybe a little bit short. If I go at the left edge of this green, now the vast majority of my shots are ending up on that green. So now let's go to a real life scenario. What I've drawn over here, this would be representing the third green at Arbor Crossing. So if you watched the other video I recently posted where I play the front 9 at Arbor Crossing Golf Club, and if you watch when I get to the third hole there, I talk about this specific scenario. That is a par 5 dogleg left, and my drive when I was playing that day put me in a position where I actually had about a 5-iron distance into this green for my second shot. Then you might think, well, yeah, great, you're going to get there in 2. However, from the landing area of the typical drives where I was, this hole goes uphill all the way on your second shot. So rather than hit the 5-iron, if I really wanted to get there, I would have picked more club, 4-iron, maybe hybrid, to get it onto this green. But I explained in that video that this is an incredibly small green, and this is drawn to scale. That green is only about 18 yards deep and only about 15 yards wide. So you could see here, actually just inside 20 yards, about 16 yards wide. So you could see there that if I even aim at the middle of this green, I really only have about a 10% chance of putting that ball on the green. And then I'm flirting with bunkers over here and going behind the green, or I'm flirting with bunkers on either side, depending on which shot happens to fly that day. So the other thing I explain is there are different contours and weird slopes around the sides and back of this green that make any chip shot from on the sides or back of that green really difficult side hill lie. And this green is sloped pretty severely from back to front. So any chip shot around the sides or back of this green is really tricky to get to stop anywhere close to the hole, especially if you're in the back. Because of that slope, typical chip shots from the back of this green end up rolling all the way off the front. So that day when I was playing, I chose to stick with the 5-iron, let it be short, so now I'm in control. I planned on having a chip or a short pitch from this area right here. And so that 5-iron, I was aiming right about here. And you could see now, if I'm kind of considering these an anomaly. I think the launch monitor misread how those took off. So I would say that 75%, 80%, maybe even 90% of my shots had a chance of leaving me the short pitch that I wanted to get on this green and give myself a chance. And if you watch that video, which by the way, I want you to go watch my other videos for more tips. If you watch that video, that ends up being the only birdie I made in that round. So my super conservative strategy of picking the chip shot I wanted rather than dealing with whatever shot I got, if I went for that green and missed it, ended up paying off as being the best score I made on a hole that day. So once again, the whole point of this video is to encourage you to identify the trend of what your swing is doing that particular day. So I identified this trend in 10 balls in a practice session. You can identify it in a practice session the day before you play. You can identify it if you go to the range and warm up before you play that day. Or if you're like a lot of players I know and pre-round is more of a social time and then you just go to the first tee, you can identify this trend in the first 2 to 3 holes. If you imagine you've taken anywhere from 3 to 6 full swing shots, if you can mentally plot where these shots are going, by the 3rd hole, you've got a trend you can identify. Did 2 of the 3 shots go to the right, or did they go where you're aiming, or did 3 of the 4 shots go one particular way? There's your trend. Live in that world. Don't try to fix the swing during the round. That's really hard to do for most players. So just live in that world. Let it be what it is. If you're pulling them, pushing them, let that swing be, and then set your aiming point to the place where it needs to be to get to get that trend shot to end up where you want it. Use this strategy next time you go out and play, and I hope that lowers your scores.
You're watching Nichols Golf. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with your friends who also want to play better golf.